Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Mark, a trainer here at WEX Field Service Management, and today we are covering schedule and dispatch basics. This webinar will cover schedule page overview, schedule settings, how to schedule an appointment, how to use the work queue, appointment status updates and visuals, callbacks and follow ups, how to update, cancel, or reschedule your appointments, and some calendar view options. We'll do our live Q&A at the end so you can get your questions answered live on stream. And without further ado, let's dive into WEX FSM. When you first log into your system, you will be on the schedule page. And this is kind of the home base. This is a great place for you to see your schedule. We can see on the right side, I've got some appointments here. And on the left side, we have a work queue. Now, just a beginner's breakdown of this. A typical scenario is that someone will call you and they need help. They need your services. And one of the first things that you'll do before you actually get into creating an appointment is you may want to go to their customer page, look at their history, and just pull up the customer in general. So to search for a customer and look at their profile page, you will actually click in the top right. That is your search customers bar, and we'll type in a customer name. Let's say my customer, Justin Hernandez. They will show up here. If you don't have a customer in your list, it will not show up, and you will want to click the plus button here, which will then allow you to add a new customer that will add them to your customer list. And then when you go to search for them next, you'll see that in the list. A pro tip here is email is required by default, but if they don't have an email, or maybe you're not actually speaking with them and you're going to grab their email later, they just gave you their name and number, you can't move forward because this is required. But you can get rid of that requirement by opting out of marketing emails and opt out of email notifications. Once you opt out of those email options, then email is no longer required and you can click save and continue forward. You can add that email to their profile later. But I have seen that, especially with newer users, it's like, I don't have an email. What do I do? And so you just toggle those on and you're good to go. You can save them. Now, in terms of the actual schedule itself, this is organized into what we call dispatch groups. I know some people call them boards. Some people just call it the schedule, the calendar. But what we're looking at here, I have this toggled onto my field technician board or group. And if I tap on this, I will be able to see all of the different dispatch groups that I have. Now, for dispatch groups to work properly, you will need users first. So that will be one of the first things we're going to set up here before we actually create an appointment. We want to make sure that we have our groups created. So when we add our users, we'll be able to add users to different groups. And I recommend making an all users group, which would be your entire team. If you have a team of maybe like 3 or 4 people, you may only need one group. But if you have a larger team or you would like to just separate, you can make a field technician group versus an office group. You could make one for the HVAC side of the business. Maybe you have a plumbing or electrical side of the business. You can separate those out. Service side of the business, repair. Get creative. This is up to you how you want to organize this. And as we click to each group, that just shows me an isolated view of the users I've selected for those groups. Now, we need to create our dispatch groups. To do this, we will go to Settings in the top right, User Management, Users. And I said the wrong thing. That's Settings, User Management, Dispatch groups. So we're going to do dispatch groups first, then we'll go to users. So settings, user management, dispatch groups. And from here, if you're new, you've just signed up, it may only have one group that says example dispatch group. If you want, you can edit that group by clicking the three dots and hit edit group. You can also just delete that group and create your own by tapping add dispatch group. Put the group name, the first one you make will be your all users, and then you'll just add everyone you want in that group and click save. That will then create the dispatch group. Make as many groups as you want. A pro tip, this is something I personally do. You do not have to do this, but if you like them being in a specific order, you can just put a number in the title, in the name. So that's what I've done here. I do like these in this very specific order. Otherwise, it will be in alphanumeric order. So you'll see it run down the alphabet here. All right, once you have these added, now you've got groups. We will see those groups reflected on the schedule page in this drop down right here. But we need to add users in order for them to show up on the dispatch group. To do this, we will go to settings, user management, users. And then this is where we are. Oh, right here. This is where you will see all of the users. These are who has access to log in and use WEX FSM. Now, if you are new, you may only have one user in here, most likely the person who signed up originally. And you want to add your users into here. And let's go over a couple specifics with this as it relates to scheduling. So you would click add user to add a brand new user, but we're going to use my field technician, Dustin Bailey, to give you an idea of a user that's already set up. So we have Dustin. He's a field technician. I've got his username, his password. This is all set up. The things that relate to scheduling, you can set a tech skill level. So let's say you have a lot of different technicians. They all have different skills. And when you have a big, expensive install, you're probably going to want your expert technicians to go to that. And then you have your everyday run-of-the-mill jobs. You'll send your rookies to that. So this is a way where you can sort of tag them with a skill level, and you will see their skill level when you are choosing who to send out on a job. Then assign user to dispatch group. This one's important. If this is empty, if there's nothing in this field, this user will not show up on the schedule page. A user must be added to a dispatch group to show up on the schedule. So I've seen that before too. You come in, you're feeling good, you add all of your users, you go to the schedule page, none of them are there. That's because you need to assign them. And when you're adding them, this is kind of a quick action to assign them to a group. You can go to the dispatch group page that we saw earlier and add them from there as well. But it's easier just to do it from here. So I have Dustin here in my all users, field techs, HVAC and electrical, and repair groups. And then for these, I think really for these, the biggest thing to know is you can update the visibility that your technicians have of the schedule and other people's schedule. So, for example, Dustin here, he can see all appointments, meaning he can see all of his appointments and all of everyone else's appointments on the team. Maybe I don't want Dustin to see everyone's appointments. I just want him to focus on his jobs. I can then click the drop down and update all appointments for me. And then that way it would just show him his appointments. Maybe you want to limit that even further. I want him to see his current appointment and the next appointment, and that's it. Maybe you don't want him going back 3 weeks ago to look at the phone number of someone he helped. Maybe that's not what you want. So it's up to you. However, you have this set up is personal preference. When you're done, click Save. And if you've selected to put them into a dispatch group, when you go back to the schedule, you will then see them in that group. Okay. Now, schedule settings. We want to make sure that your preferences are set. So when you're scheduling, everything flows exactly how you want it to. To do this, we are going to go to Settings, Jobs, and then Job Types. Job types are very important as it relates to reporting. Each appointment that you create is going to make a job. And then job types say what type of job this is. And that is important when you're in your reporting because maybe I want to pull up all of my installs for the last month and see how much money did we make from installs last month. As long as you have been tagging all of your jobs as install job type, you'll be able to pull that up. So we do have some defaults that are in here, but they're very generic. So if you want to come in, you can click new job type, put the type of job that you do. You can set default durations. Maybe for your residential service calls, it's 1 hour, but for your 3 system installs, it's 2.5 hours. Whatever you want, you can set those. The colors that you see, and I didn't realize this when I first started working here until someone told me, but the colors you see are the job type. It's what type of job it is. And once you get used to knowing the job types, it's nice. I know by looking at this that this is a service call, this is an install, this is a maintenance, this is a no AC. And I just know that because I know the colors. And you set those colors here when creating the job types. When I create an appointment, I will select a job type and then I'll know what type of job it is at a glance. So save that. You'll have all your job types here. And then just think like, what type of jobs do I want to add? The answer to that question is what type of jobs do you want to track and be able to filter in your reports? All right, so that is job types. And now let's schedule an appointment and we will see the users, the dispatch group, the job types. We're going to see all of these things we've talked about so far come into play when we schedule our appointment. If you have, when you're on the schedule page, we have 2 sections. There is the dispatch board, which means I know the date, I know the time, I know the technician. We have all the information needed to put this here. Then the work queue is going to be draft appointments. Some of my customers don't use the work queue at all. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I have some of my customers, they use the work queue pretty exclusively. And so, if you just want to schedule exactly what you got on the board, that's great. Or if you want to throw everything into the work queue and let your technicians pull from that list and assign themselves based on where they're at, you can do that as well. So it's very versatile, but to create an appointment, there's 2 main ways to do this. You can either click new and enter in the customer info. And that's one way. That will start it from scratch with no additional information to begin. Or you can click on the actual schedule itself. So if I wanted to send Caleb out on a job at 3 p.m., I would click on the 3 p.m. slot under the Caleb user, and it'll look the same, but once you get into the appointment, the date, the time, and the technician will already be pre-selected. So that is just a little time saver by clicking on the actual board itself. For today's example, we're going to click new, And then we're going to type our customer and select them. And this is the appointment modal. This is where we will actually fill out all the information for the appointment and then hit schedule. So let's start right at the top. We have log a call only if I'm not scheduling an appointment. Maybe I'm talking to the customer, I think I'm about to schedule, and they're like, you know what, but we're going on vacation, so why don't we connect when we come back? You can just click log call only. No appointment will be created, but there will be a note added to their account saying whatever, leaving notes about what happened. Hey, that we're going to go out and do their maintenance call, but not until they come back, etc. Log call with appointment, this is where we're actually creating an appointment. At the top here, we need to determine where we want to send our technician. So this is already selected. If I click on this, this will show all different locations. So you can have multiple locations. They will show here. What I really like about this, if I click the edit icon, I don't have to go to the customer page. I can add new addresses. I can update the addresses all from here and then click back to appointment. Then this part's very important, where the job is. So when I click schedule, it's going to create a new job, which I like to think of jobs as digital file folders. This appointment will then be saved in that job. If I click the drop down, and let's say this is a callback to a previous job, I will want to select that previous job. So let's say I have a bunch of jobs in my system for this customer. If this is a second visit or a third visit, it relates back to a previous job. Go in here and select that previous job folder. That way, this gets saved in the right place. And you want everything relating to one job in the same folder. If this is a new job, select new job and it will create a new job folder. A common error that some new users may make that I've seen before, you select new job for everything, even if it's a callback. Your technician goes out, they don't see any of the notes, the proposal that was created, images, history. They're not going to see that because it's not in the right folder. So biggest thing to know, if it's a new job, like a new issue that your customer has that you're helping them with, select new job. And if it is a previous job, select that previous job. Job name, it says optional. I highly recommend you add a name. When you're on the customer page, and let's take a quick little gander at this. When you're on the customer page, you're going to see all of their jobs. So here's the jobs on the right. And if you notice, every single one of these says what it is. This is their fall maintenance. This is new construction. This is a no AC call. But if you notice this one, it doesn't have a name. So I'm not really sure what this job is about at a glance. I'd have to click the drop down, look into it, etc. So that's a huge time saver for your future self, is naming all of your jobs. So for today's example, let's say this is a no AC call. I would consider this a service job type. And now we will determine, are we going to schedule now and put this on the dispatch board, or are we going to do a service request, put it in the work queue and save it for later? Schedule now, we'll do the date, the time, and the technician. Service request, we just need to know that how long is this going to take when it happens, and then you can put notes and click save. If I save a service request, it will go on the left side into the work queue. If I save a schedule now, that will go on to the dispatch board and my technician will see that on their schedule in the mobile app. So let's do this. We will say he's going out today between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. We're going to send Caleb. Maybe you know the date, you know the time. This is another nuance of scheduling. I know this is an emergency for Justin, and I told him in the morning, we're going to get someone out before the end of the day today. I'm just not sure which one of my guys are going to go. You can still get this prepped and ready by setting the date. Maybe you even set the time, but then assign later. We'll also put this in the work queue as an unassigned appointment. So that's really all you need to know. There's three main types of appointments. You've got your regular appointments that go on the dispatch board. You know the date, the time, the technician. You've got your assign later. I know the date, I know the time, but I'm not sure which technician yet. That will go in the work queue under unassigned appointments. And then your service requests. Those are draft appointments. I don't know the date, I don't know the time. Just sometime in the future, we'll need to do this job. And that saves in the work queue as well. For today's example, we're sending Caleb out. Between 3 and 4. If I wanted to send helpers with Caleb, I could just choose them from the additional text drop down here. And if I want to remove additional text, I just click the X. Any notes that the technician needs to know to do the job should go here. So basically, there's a gate code, and maybe don't let the cats out. Then down below, I mean, filter sizes goes here, whatever you need them to know, that's what goes there. This is not customer facing either. So, you have a grumpy old man you want to warn your technician about, they won't see this note here in the appointment modal. And last but not least, we have our appointment reminders. These are going to send messages to your customer. Scheduled, when I hit schedule, it's going to send a message directly to the customer, letting them know the appointment has been created. If you want, you can set reminders 1 week or 1 day prior. And then en route, if I have this on, my technician, when they click on the way, it will send a message to the customer letting them know their technician is on the way to the job. Make sure you have the contact selected that you want the messaging for this to go to. And when you're ready, click schedule. And there we go. So we have officially created an appointment. We know that it's for our customer, Justin Hernandez. We've got their job that was created. So before there was no job for this, we just created the appointment, which created job 15064, no AC. If I want to go into this job and see what that's all about, I can click on this and it will take me into the job. What's cool about this, now we're inside the job folder, we can see appointments and service requests. Here it is. Here's our appointment. And as Caleb updates this from the mobile app, I'll be able to see those updates. I'll see those timestamps recorded here. So I'm going to check my notes real quick here. Oh, perfect. Okay. So we've created our appointment. We've seen where it shows up in the job, but let's go back and look at the work queue. So the appointment we officially created is right here. And now I have work queue items. On the left, we have show all, which will show you your service requests and your unassigned appointments. Service requests, I don't know the date, the time, the technician, I'm not sure. Unassigned appointments, they will show a date and a time. And so let's say I'm starting my morning tomorrow. Maybe that's something you'll do. You'll look at the work queue and say, okay, what do we need? Um, this is, you'll look at the date, you'll look at the time, and then you can just click and drag over and let go and schedule right from there. Pick your technician, hit save. Very easy to pull things from the work queue over to the dispatch board. Uh, Now, with let's say that I want to know what's going on out in the field. I want to have a pulse of what's going on with the guys out there. We have visual indicators that let you see the status of what is happening with each appointment. So if we look, this first one, Dustin Bailey with Bob Smith, nothing is happening. I this is this scenario is the appointment has not been started yet. There's no visual indicator. This is just an appointment on the board. The next one down, we can see moving dotted lines, and that says that this technician is on the way to the job. So if I see this, I know that my tech is in transit, probably in the truck driving out there. The dotted lines will stop moving, and now it's just a dotted outline. That means they're at the job. So I know that Bruce is currently at the job doing the work. And then if you see that it's gray, that means it's complete and that your technician has marked that as complete. And then if you see that it's kind of a low opacity, if you notice this is kind of a nice punchy red and this is a little lighter, this lower opacity means that it was missed. So we're past the time and nothing was logged. No time was logged. No status was changed. So if you see a missed appointment, you may want to reach out and say, hey, did you miss this appointment or did you just forget to clock in and out? If that happens, so let's say I call Caleb and I say, hey, did you forget to clock out? Yes, I did. Can you please update it for me? That's very easy to do. You hover over the appointment, click on the job, and then, let's say I'm talking to Caleb. It's like I got there probably around 9:05 and I left at 10:15. So I would click on the actual time and enter. Let's say that he got there at 9:05 and then he left at 10:15. And that was the time he was at the job. We can click the little floppy disk to save. And there we go. Very easy. I just updated his actual time. And then this will show up in time clock reports so you can pull that for payroll. And you will also want to make sure that you change the status since he forgot to complete to signify that this is a completed appointment. And there we go. Next, let's take a look at flag for follow-up. So if you have a job, we'll just use this as an example. If you have a job that requires a follow-up, probably a very common scenario is technician gets there, realizes he needs a part, we need to order the part, we'll come back for a second visit. You're going to need a way to remember that, especially if there's a lot of different follow-ups happening. Your system will help you remember by using the flag for follow-up feature. Each job, so right now we're on a job page. We're like inside the job folder, and I want to flag this. Let's say Caleb let me know, hey, I didn't have what I need. I'm going to go back out again. We ordered the part. I'll pick it up next week and we'll go. To remember that this is happening, you will click flag for follow-up. This can also be done from the mobile app by the technician. And what follow-up type? This scenario is part order. And then you can enter in what needs to happen, like ordered part 1, 2, 3, 4, will be here Monday. And save. Once that has been flagged, then you'll see a new flag has been created, a little pop up here. And then if you want to go and look at your flags, you can click on the flags icon right here. And here it is. We just made a flag for Andrew Jones. And this page, this job list, is where you can kind of isolate all your flags and see all those flagged for follow-ups. As this relates to scheduling, if you wanted to, you could go back to this job and you would think, all right, Caleb, oh, this is the wrong job. Let's just go back here. You'll find your own way on how you want to do this. I'm just providing some tips, some best practices. If you create a flag, we know we're going to need to go out in the future and do this. So what you could do is create a service request and you'll just drag and drop that when the part comes in. So you could click new. This is going to be a service and I know it's going to take an hour. And I'll even write in the notes, part comes in on Monday. Let's try to hit this, midweek and hit save. So now that's already prepped. Part comes in. I can either from here edit this and schedule it, or maybe I want to, from the schedule page, just pull it right from my work queue. Here it is. Let's say it's next week. And we'll just drag and drop and schedule. And that's because I set up the service request when I made the flag. So a little time saver there. And any job that has a flag on it, you'll see a flag on the appointment itself. All right. And then we have two more things I'm going to go over before we get into our Q&A. The first being how to deal with cancels, unscheduled reschedules. Customer calls, says, hey, I'm not going to be available. Can we reschedule? You will click on the appointment, which allows you to edit it. And then you can go to cancel unschedule in the bottom left. Unschedule will put it back in the work queue and you can reschedule it later. Cancel will cancel it. It won't go to the work queue. It'll be off the dispatch board, but it will save a historical record on the customer account that it was scheduled at one point. And delete, maybe you made it an error. Maybe you accidentally made two of the same appointments and you just want to delete it completely. That's what that is for, delete. Any update that you make, you can send a confirmation to your customer and click save. And last but not least, just some options that you have aesthetically on how this looks for you. You can hide the work queue if you want a little more real estate for your schedule. You can super maximize this by clicking in the top right here, the full screen mode, which is going to pop that out to the sides. Maybe you would like to see this in a vertical view. So right now we're in horizontal. If I click on this, this will show me a vertical view. So maybe I want to see this more like my Google Calendar, where it's going down the page rather than across the page. And then you also have a list view. Maybe you have a ton of appointments. You can just click list and see all your appointments for each day in a more condensed view. The map view will allow me to see all of appointments by location. So as you have appointments on the board, you'll be able to see those here and you'll see where your technicians are as well. And let's go back to calendar. And last but not least, if you want to segment these into hour time slots or 30-minute time slots, you can toggle that here, 30, 60. Which means if I click in this square, if it's 60 minutes, it will auto-populate a 60-minute meeting on the top of the hour. If I do the 30-minute, then I could click in the 30-minute and it would allow it to start at like 4:30 rather than starting right at 4. Okay. So there you have it. That's all the information we have for today's presentation. We're going to get into our Q&A now. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining. My name is Mark with WEX Field Service Management, and this has been Schedule and Dispatch Basics.